Welcome to a brand new episode of Squeaky Bum Time. I'm sadly alone. Mike Phelan's laughing there. He's the guest here. He knows exactly what that term means. Sadly, Keish can't join us today. He's a little bit preoccupied, but it's okay because the stars of the show are our guests, Jose Enrique and Mike Phelan. Mick Phelan, Michael Phelan.
Yeah.
Many, many names. I'm just going to get straight to it. This show, I just bring up topics and then we just see where it goes. So today's one is settling into a new country, player's perspective and a manager coaching staff's perspective. How difficult it can be, what the staff can do to help players, how it's come along over the years since you've been involved in management. So no better place than with you, Jose.
Okay.
Spain to, of all places, Newcastle.
It was difficult. It was tough my first year. I think it's different now because you have a lot more the clubs involved in you have other players as well that they can speak the language, even if they are not Spanish. In my case, they could be Brazilians, they could be Portuguese, that they speak still the language. In my case, it was tough. I was 21. I went there, didn't speak the language at all. They didn't put any translator. I remember even, you know, Solano, who used to play in Newcastle as well. Novi Solano.
Yeah.
I think he's her nephew or something like that. He's her nephew.
Your drink is here, by the way.
Thank you. She helped me to try to put internet in the house in that time. And now obviously the clubs do everything for you. In that time I tried to put internet in the house. So I need to find the help outside the club. And I remember they booking the flights as well for me when I wanted to go back to Spain or people coming to see me. And I thought, oof, this is very expensive. Look myself, half of the price. I say, yeah. What these guys, you know, it was tough to get used to the place. But to be honest, when I got used to, I loved the UK. But it's very, very difficult. I think when you are really young, more and now I think it's even more easy to adapt. But at the same time, the players are getting even more pay now. So with that age, I don't know, it's tough to change the country when you don't speak the language, and I didn't at all.
Yeah. I mean, what about yourself, Mike? Because you would have had people from literally across the entire globe, South America, Asia, Europe.
Yeah, once the gates opened up to the foreign travel and footballers being available to come into the big football world in England, then it became more, there was more planning involved, you know, so you had to find out a little bit more detail about the player and the player's background and things like that, just so that when he came into the country you could help him settle, or like you say, if you needed a translator, you know, most of the time we needed a translator for the manager, let alone the players that were coming in.
Was that your role? Did you have to translate for the manager?
No, he was fine. But a lot of the time the players, you know, sometimes came to me and said, you know, what does he mean by that, and what's the phrases mean, and these sorts of things. So yeah, it's a really difficult time, but you put those things in place now, you know, and it's pretty straightforward now. It's like a checklist that you go through, and they come in, you sort out sort of accommodation straight away. You know, it used to be that you'd go into an apartment or a flat or some rented thing, and then the club would then look for whatever you wanted. You know, was it a house you wanted, was it a flat in the city centre, or was it something completely different? So all those things suddenly came into place, but you employ people to do that. So we, as a football club, Manchester United, I think they outsourced in the beginning, but then they brought it in-house, and they had a team of people that just took care of it. And those people obviously come out of education, they've got languages, so they can straight away step in to help. The player sometimes is one of the easiest people to work with,
yeah,
because they come to work every day. You know, so they come in for training, and then they gradually pick up sort of the environment more quickly than, say, families and wives or girlfriends or whatever. So they need a lot more help, I think, than possibly the player. And that is an important thing, that you put this around them, and it just gives them that sort of breathing space to settle. Schools are a big thing if you've got children, huge thing. Where are they going to go, and what's the relationship that they have at school? And obviously sometimes religion plays a part now. You know, but the funny parts are when they're driving, and they drive on the wrong side of the road, and they always want the fast cars. They never want sort of the family car. So they end up, you know, with a few bumps and scrapes along the way, or get lost when they come into the training ground, and even the ground.
Was there anybody who opted for the sensible car, though?
Yeah, there would be some, you know, but in these days now, they don't just have one car. You know, one car was a privilege. Now it's 2 and 3 cars. You know, they have Monday's car, Tuesday's car, Wednesday's car, Thursday's car, Friday's
It
car.
depends.
Match
No,
day
no,
cars.
obviously,
That's true.
Obviously, all the footballers are like this.
Yeah.
For me, for example, my first 2 years in La Liga, I was with a Volkswagen Golf. You know, and I was playing in first division already, and I love it. Then when I moved to Newcastle, obviously my contract was much better, and then I got the car I like it. But I actually like big cars more than race one.
Yeah.
It depends the player. Mostly, 100% agree. Yeah, they straight away as soon as they have a even normal contract, depends the player, they go and buy a big one. You know.
But be honest with me, if you have to choose one former teammate or squad player, whoever it might be, to drive you from A to B, who would it be?
Definitely no Balotelli.
He'll probably set up a firework whilst in the car, right?
Definitely no Balotelli. And if I have one to drive me,
Who do you trust to drive you?
I could trust many, I think. Stevie G, you can trust him.
Is he slow and steady?
I believe, obviously, I've been behind him. Obviously, I don't live with him,
Yeah,
so I'm
yeah.
not sure. But yeah, it looks like yes. Not with a younger player, 100% no, because they would like to run a lot. But in Liverpool, for example, in Newcastle, I remember with Coloccini once, he has a Bentley, very good car as well, and very fast. And I went one with him in the car, and I say, no more with you. I'm sorry, no more. You know, Jonas was okay in the car. Wasn't too bad, to be honest with you.
Pepe Reina. Since he likes to party, like
He
he
goes fast.
Yeah, I thought so.
Pepe, yeah.
Singing in the car?
Yeah, singing in the car, but he's fast as well, very fast, no chance. I remember we went for dinner once to Manchester, and I'm not gonna say the speed just in case they find him even now. But I remember in the motorway, I was with Amy as well, and we were going back, and all of a sudden a Porsche Carrera or something like that, I think he had in that time, and like a plane, you know, like.
That's because he
and
was trying to get out of Manchester.
Could be. That's a good point.
And I was like, oh my God. And the day after I talked to him, he said, no, even I remember the helicopter, the police tried, and they stopped me, but there were Liverpool fans, didn't find me. I said, well, if they find you that day, they take your license away. You know, I think that they are stronger these days, the police as well. They are a lot stronger now.
You never know. I was just reading a story. If you watch Game of Thrones, Kit Harington's character, there was a big, like, is he going to live or is he going to die? And he got stopped for speeding. And they said, what happens next depends on your answer. Are you alive next season? And he said, yes. Okay, please drive safely. We'll see you in the future.
The policeman got the scoop, huh?
Yeah, he got the scoop straight there and there. What about yourself? Who's going to be driving Mike Phelan around, wherever it might be?
Certainly not my wife.
Oh.
She's not the greatest driver.
Because she'll ask you to drive.
So yeah.
Please put that clip and we send it to her.
Yeah, I think we should.
When it comes to players, when I was younger, you know, and I couldn't afford a car, but I was getting lifts off senior players, and they were very sensible drivers, you know. But people wouldn't know these players if I mentioned them. But certainly, say at Man United, I would never really jump in a car with a football player. No, it was too risky. I would also never jump into a car with Sir Alex Ferguson, you know, even though I did many times, because he was quite a driver. You know, he's very focused on going forward. But anything behind him, doesn't care about. You know? Okay. So it was quite a journey sometimes with Mr. Ferguson.
What about transport when it comes to going to matches? Have you ever had any interesting bus journeys, for example?
Oh, very interesting one to Newcastle.
To Newcastle?
In Newcastle to the ground. I went to, so I have I used to live in Newcastle in Jetsbondin house. Okay, so it's very close to town. Then I moved to Pontylan after. That is outside of the city. And I remember I had a pasta for lunch. And actually, in my contract, I had that after 25 games, like many contracts, my contract was a little bit up. And that game was my 25th.
Okay.
And we play against Sunderland. It was a derby in St. James's Park. And it was my first season. Couldn't speak one word of Spanish, or of English, sorry. So I had some pasta at home, I ate it, and I didn't feel, my stomach and everything didn't feel 100%, you know? But in that time you go with a suit, everything, you know, to the game. And I say, I need the toilet, but I think I'm fine. You know, I'm gonna be on the way and I will be fine, you know? Get in the car, start driving, start sweating, you know? start sweating, take my tie off, you know, my jacket, keep going. And I didn't know Newcastle too much. You know, it was just that season, really. And I remember when you arrived to Newcastle with the car, I was with the car here, the stadium was in that side, and I was seeing, okay, I arrived there. Then in the St. James's Park, you park next to the pitch, really, and then a guard get your car and take it, but then you have to walk to the dressing room. And I was in that way, and I say, no chance I get to the toilet in time doing that, no chance. So I went and I stopped in the first bar I seen, and I stopped the car, put the 4 lights, and jump in. I went in, didn't realize was obviously matching against Sunderland, and it was a proper supporter Newcastle bar.
Yeah.
Get in, everyone turn. Enrique? And I said, yeah. It's, oh, Enrique, everyone is standing. I said, no, wait. I went to the toilet, ran out, obviously, do my needs in the toilet. Came out, everyone taking pictures, says, guys, I go late to the game, need to go. The way I could say it, because obviously I didn't speak English, said I need to go to the car. In that time, now you have keys that obviously you open the car automatically without needing the key to open. In that time, it wasn't like that. So I went to open, I said, my keys. Where's my keys? The car?
Oh no.
You know, imagine, call my brother. My brother called the intermediate, the person that did the deal to speak with the club that I didn't have the keys of the car. I was close to the stadium, but I couldn't make it, you know. Making that time my partner to come, you know, and bring me the other key. But in that time, obviously, when I arrived to the stadium, it was nearly to go in warm-up. So I arrived, get changed, and go in warm-up. Actually, I started the game. I don't know how. Wow. It was Kevin Keegan. No, it was Kevin Keegan. It was the manager, I think it was. Yeah, Kevin Keegan, I think it was. Imagine I arrived there. I said, well, how this happened? You know, and I arrived to the dressing room. I start to change, and I realized that I have the key in my sock.
In your sock?
In my sock. You know, like, because I went that desperate to the toilet, I didn't even realize that I put it there. So I was changing, and all of a sudden I look at, and I see a big thing there. I say, oh my God, I say, I'm not gonna tell anybody this, you know.
Until now.
Until now, obviously, but that will happen. So it's an interesting one. Obviously, he was so mad, Kevin Keegan. I couldn't explain myself either because I didn't speak the language. So it was a bit bad, but that probably is one of the biggest ones it happens to me.
Did you win the game?
We won the game.
Oh.
Yeah, we won the game, yeah. And it was 25 games as well, so it was good. But I actually got surprised how he played me because I couldn't explain myself, and you could see he was really pissed off at me, you know, really mad at me. Yeah. I understand why, you know, but listen, I can't explain you properly, you know, but I explained, my brother, when I called him, he couldn't believe me. Say, you are serious? I say, I'm very serious. I couldn't get to the stadium. If not, I literally put myself before I get there, you know? So that's what happened. Yeah. It happened few, but that's probably one of the most big ones.
You and your son have got some issues. Even here, the other night, he had his...
Yeah, but here I have the excuse. You have a very spicy food here.
Yeah.
That's, you know, that's the difference.
Yeah, I guess, perhaps, different standards. What about yourself, Mike?
I can't top that.
Have you ever had a scary bus drive or anything? I mean...
Scary bus drive? No, not...
all drives have been...
Well, certainly when I was a player travelling to Norwich from sort of Burnley in those days was like 6 hours drive. You know, it was quite
That's by car, not by bus.
Car.
Yeah,
that's
so
by
bus
car.
will be even slower.
Yeah, so just definitely slower. So I used to, obviously I was playing a game, then driving back north really, because I was engaged at the time to my now wife. So that was I played the game and I'd be in the car and driving, but going back, I used to go back on the Sunday. You couldn't, unless you stopped on the way, get to Norwich on a full tank of petrol. It's impossible. So I used to drive sort of 4 hours, 5 hours, and then rather than fill up like you would normally do at some, but there wasn't many sort of garages along the way neither. They were all sort of intermittent. I used to pull into a lay-by on the night. So on the Sunday night, I'd pull in and I had a sleeping bag in the back of my car. And I used to sleep the night in the lay-by and then drive in on Monday morning. I used to stop there used to be small restaurants, and people in England will remember these. They were called Little Chefs.
I remember Little Chef, yeah.
Well, there were a few of those on the way to Norwich. And I used to stop in one of them for my breakfast in the morning and then just drive straight into the training ground, And I used to park the car in the lay-bys where all the lorry drivers were, And I used to always park in between two lorries, so I felt safer in between the two lorries. So I thought if anybody turns up, or they'll nick a lorry rather than a car, like, you know what I mean? It's all the things that you remember, you know, which are foolish, but they were fun as well.
Yeah.
But journeys from Norwich, you know, even by bus, it was crazy. You know, in my time, certainly not in Jose's time, but we would travel from Norwich to get to a game in the northwest, say, which would take 6 hours, and in those days the drivers could only drive 4 hours, you know, and clubs were a little bit tight then with the purse string, so they wouldn't put two drivers on, it was always one. So you'd have to stop 4 hours in for at least an hour before you could start again. So every hotel coming north, we'd stay 2 hours away probably from the ground, which is incredible really, before the game the next day. But going back, it was even better, really. It was better for the players because we would jump on the bus and we would always have to stop on the way back. And the culture of the time was, if there's a public house or a pub nearby or on the way, stop, couple of beers, back on the bus, fish and chips, and you'd done your hour of rest, and then you were back to Norwich. And we got back to Norwich in some states sometimes, whether we'd won, lost or drawn. You know, it was it was an incredible moment.
What you brought the fish and chips. I want to know, what's the difference between a post-match meal or pre-match meal in Spain and England? Or is it now the same, just pastas and...
To be honest, in Spain, in the time I played there, with Pellegrini, for example, in Villarreal, we had pizza after the game. It wasn't an issue. It wasn't an issue. And for example, I remember in Villarreal, it's not a big town, Villarreal. So it was just one McDonald's there, really. And I remember after the game, you could see in the queue of McDonald's at home games, we were half of the team getting McDonald's, you know. Obviously now it's completely different, even in the UK. You still can do that, but the food is more taken care of. By my time, anything really. You can have pizza, McDonald's. As soon, obviously they weigh you and everything like that, but as soon as you were in your weight, it didn't matter. It didn't matter.
Yeah,
Times change, I guess, when you were having fish and chips and stopping by the pub. Now,
I had my first, what you would call steak, proper steak, fillet steak or sirloin steak it was then, when I was 18, and that was through football. And the pre-match in those days at football, when I was at Burnley, was a steak, a sirloin steak, 3 hours before the game.
That's heavy.
And it used to just be a piece of steak, and that was it. And that's changed immensely now, you know. And some of the clubs I went to, even before I went to Manchester United, the players used to have a what was it called then? A buffet lunch or a sort of as much as you could eat sort of lunch, you know. So it would be Yorkshire pudding, gravy, steak, all that lot. And this was like 3 hours before a game. Sometimes they would have that, and it's the worst thing you probably could have. But then it changed. It changed, and the influences of overseas players as well changed the mentality of that, you know. And it flipped to rice, pasta, boiled chicken. I still can't look at a boiled chicken now, this day and age. You know, I've had enough boiled chicken to last me a lifetime, and it's not the most pleasant sight on your plate, a boiled chicken, believe you me. But certainly the rice came in, the pasta, and like you say, pizzas after a game were probably the easiest food to get. Yeah. And most football clubs would put some into your dressing room as well. You know, so but a lot of players nowadays, they don't eat a lot immediately after the game now, but they have lots of these supplement drinks and fruit and things like that. And then they obviously go home and have their meal at home.
Something that surprised me a lot in the UK is like when I went in Liverpool already, before the game, they used to, one day before the game, so imagine we play Saturday, on Friday, for lunch after the game, you have a lot of desserts to eat. Yeah. And they say, no, it's good for you to eat this because like this, you have more carbs for tomorrow. You know, and really it's no.
Yeah, a lot of sugar.
Sugar. But in Liverpool it was like that until obviously Brennan, with Brennan it's still the same, but with Club changed that. But it was actually something that in Spain it was like that, yeah. After the game you could have your pizza, your McDonald's, but normally with sweets, drinks, we
were told that seafood the night before a game, you know, like prawns and things, that's a no-no, just in case, you know, with sort of raw seafood or whatever, you could have a possible reaction to that. I don't know whether that's true, but we was always fed that line, that avoid the seafood, don't eat seafood. But now everything's taken care of. The menus are taken care of. You've got nutritionists. It's just completely changed, and it's just they probably eat less, well, not less, smaller meals, but more of them now. You know, rather than the staple 3 meals a day sort of thing.
And I think it depends on the player as well. For me, 3 hours before the game, I could eat a good quantity, and I actually felt better. And for example, I'm gonna put you, because it really surprised me this. Luis Suarez, for example, we used to play at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and he has some pineapple and some strawberries in the training ground at 12 o'clock, and that's it. And he didn't have any breakfast on it. That was his food, because he said he didn't feel well if he has food before the game. And I said, well, if I had just that, I faint.
Yeah, I could never get my head round when you used to get up for the early kickoffs, you know, like the 12 o'clock kickoffs, so the 12:30s in the morning, and that's like 3 hours before kick. So 9 o'clock in England, that's breakfast time. But when you get up, when it's around the football environment, pasta, salad, vegetables, and I was like, whoa, you know, I'm a coach now. I didn't want to eat that sort of stuff, you know. And but they'd eat a bowl of pasta at that time of day, and I used to think, wow, that takes some doing that to actually wake up and face a bowl of pasta first thing. But I suppose they just get used to it. It becomes a routine, I suppose.
I know Rooney talked about that, but there's been a few pundits that have come to Malaysia, and they're shocked that what we have for breakfast here, which can be noodles or rice. You guys had it with me yesterday for lunch. We had the traditional Malaysians, the nasi lemak. So you had like the sauce and the coconut rice and the chicken. The reason that place was packed is people come there for breakfast from like 8 in the morning.
And have that for breakfast.
That's
but by the time we wake up, now we're over here, it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and it's breakfast time.
It is true.
Exactly.
It's, some of the guys can't get over it. Some of our guests, they can't wrap their minds around the fact that we're having rice.
I think it's culture, you know, obviously you have to respect it, but I will not be able to have that in the morning in Spain, for example. Now in Spain we have our toast, you know, I don't know, maybe your special K, the typical special K.
I noticed quite a bit with the Spanish boys at United at times. They like the soda bread, sort of the more firmer bread with the chopped tomatoes. You said and it was like a paste.
Yeah.
And then they'd put something on top of that, like maybe a fried egg or something. And that was, I saw that quite a lot with a lot of the Spanish guys, that they like that.
Omelettes, things like that.
Yeah, things like very straightforward, but a little bit of tradition in there, a little bit of culture in there that they brought with them. And the hams, of course, you know.
Yeah.
You know, that is pretty tidy. That is nice, that, isn't it?
It would be remiss of me not to ask this. Is it true that the pudding stopped amongst the players because of Cristiano last year? There was a story doing the rounds. Actually, it was
they certainly didn't stop with the staff. No, they were always there. I mean, things get blown out of proportion, I suppose. You know, he was a very tidy eater. You know, he'd obviously learned throughout his career what to eat and what not to eat, and that's probably why he's still playing at 38 years of age. Whereas the rest of us, we carried on as normal. But they were there. You know, you could have various different desserts. And you know, they went down very well. But you've got to be careful, you see, as a staff member and a player, it's the same menu, but it's completely different when it comes to your body. I mean, so if you eat like a football player, you're going to put the pounds on if you don't, you know. And you can look at me and see that. But
aging gracefully, that's what I'll say.
Yeah, well, or disgracefully.
No. No. I got to also ask this, because when it comes, going full circle to how I discussed everything at the start, joining a club and all of that, what's the best initiation you've ever seen? Or what have you been asked to do in an initiation at a club?
It's Newcastle as well. Sam Allardyce. It was funny though.
Big Sam?
Big Sam. Yeah. First of all, it's actually funny this, because I never experienced that. So I arrived there, he was watching the game I was playing against Barcelona with Villarreal. So I don't think he really knew who I was. So actually, I was maybe a signing of the club, really, more than his signing.
The manager, yeah.
Yeah. And he said, Messi, nothing, you know, something like that. And then they start to, I remember, go, and as soon as I arrived, say, no, can you put your boots and everything? And I remember when I signed for Newcastle, I arrived with a thigh hamstring. It wasn't pull or anything. So in a few days, I will be able to train with the team, but not just yet. So I arrived, and in Newcastle training ground, they have a inside pitch. Okay, that is covered. Obviously, you need
in
it.
there, yeah,
Yeah.
so it's- yeah.
You need it in Newcastle.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
You need it. So we went inside and start to do me the beep
bleep
test, you know.
Yeah, yeah,
And my brother was watching there, and I was doing it, and I look at him and say, "What I'm doing? I don't even sign the contract yet. I can't injure me now, you know." So he does that. After, another thing that happened very strange, I go to the doctor, start to touch everything, my knee, everything like that, and then he came to my and touched my and I say, "Why is touching my?"
You're thinking this in Spanish. You
No,
probably
in
can't
Spanish,
communicate with him.
thinking, and my brother was there, and he looked at me and started laughing and say,
¿Qué?
my brother, I said, what he's touching my, you know? And he say, no, and the doctor explained that, and if you are 25, is the cancer, whatever, testicular cancer or whatever in that time. So I said, okay, but he's touching them for 10 minutes now. I think he should stop touching now.
Testing it to see if you've got some.
Exactly, you need it and you've got
So
some.
it's funny stories like that. Then another one, and then I let you talk that one, but this one was one of the funniest of Sam Allardyce, I remember. Imagine a full pitch. And Sam Allardyce used to have his phone with him. In that time, obviously, wasn't internet, so he has probably his Nokia or whatever, his coffee. He put the microphone like a singer, you know, like that. And then he has two physios at the side of the pitch, you know, with two massive speakers, you know. So, for example, I was the defender, so the physios, they were in this line, put the ball forward, and the physios with the speakers following where the ball goes. Like this, when he speak, everyone could hear him.
Yeah.
But you could see the physios with massive speakers. One is like this, said, they're gonna kill themselves, you know. And then you were playing, and he was drinking his coffee as well, and maybe like, and you were playing, he wasn't talking, and all of a sudden you heard. You know, like, or a mesas too. He's like, you know, like, and you are playing, you say, and I finish. My friends, they used to come over a lot to Newcastle as well. My brother and everything. I say, this is not. It cannot be in every team here in the UK like this, you know. So with Sam, it's a lot of fun experiences, though, lots.
Any initiations during your time?
In my time, there was none of that as a player. They didn't do it when I went in as a coach and everything. The players, but the players would with each other. You know, like new players, they always had to sort of step up and do a song or some kind of thing. And over the years, they all seem to get better, the songs, you know, and then they had the telephones with the music on, so they would play the music and sing at the same time. And some died a death, you know, like the players would stand up and wave the white flags and sit down and boo them and all that. And other times, some really surprised you, you know, some of the young kids, they were well into it, you know, and they would give you the full routine, you know, the moves, the dance routines and all this. So it was, for me, that was I would never have been able to do that. You know, and some of them also teamed up, so they might have formed themselves into 2 or 3 people, you know, and then they all had a little sing-song together. So it actually created a really good atmosphere, you know, because it was, but it's a fear factor thing. Can you get over that? Can you get over that moment? And some of them were extremely, extremely good.
Of all the singers you saw, who would be great on The Voice then? Or one of those reality shows?
Oh, Nemanja Matic was good.
Matic?
Yeah, he was
really
good. Yeah, but he was always when he did his sort of turn, he then led it from there. So he was sort of the guy then after that, when any other new player came in, he was the first one to nail them on it. You know, he would be straight in there, he'd tap on the table at dinner and he would be like, right, you're up, and you know, and get on with it sort of thing. So he led it, really.
Do you remember what he sang?
No, I can't remember what he sang. No, it certainly wasn't Serbian. It was English. But a lot of the young kids were really into it. I mean, they're massively into the music. I mean, even when you talk about music, dressing room music. Wow, how bad is that these days? Certainly for me. You know what I mean? But it's just boom, boom all the time, and it gives me an headache. You know, so I end up, you know, as soon as it goes on. And you always know who's playing what, because they have their soundtracks now, or they have their little bits. So it could be Scott McTominay maybe has played something, it's his turn, or Bruno or whatever, and it just flips from one extreme to the other. So I just end up walking out and going out onto the pitch and try trying to get my mindset on the football match rather than the boom boom music.
That makes sense, because when I was doing matches pitchside and you were at Manchester United, I would see you just sitting there. But
I'd
now
come
I know,
out with a cup of tea and sit in the dugout.
now I know why you did that.
Yeah,
it was because of the
that
music.
was to keep my sanity.
Understood. Okay, now it makes sense. Jose, anybody you've seen join a club and they just killed it on stage, like amazing singer?
To be honest, they always talk about that, and I never experienced
Never?
it. In
Not
the
even at
dressing
Liverpool?
room. Not even at Liverpool. Never happens to me, and never I seen a teammate doing it either. So very strange, because it's very popular. It's been very popular. Even when I was playing in other clubs, they were doing it.
Privately, they all fancy themselves as great singers, you know.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
we've all experienced that ourselves, haven't we? When
Shower
we've been in the
singers.
house or on
Yeah.
our own or in the shower or the bath, and you can always sort of, you go into one, don't you, and you start to really sing it. But then when they actually listen to themselves when they're in front of people, it's absolutely a mess sometimes.
I think you could pull off a Sinatra my way. I think you could.
Big Sam was a good singer, by the way.
Ah, yeah.
He loved a little performance. Yeah,
When he drinks, he liked to drink as well.
yeah, but he could sing a good tune.
You know what they used to do in Spain, in Celta Vigo, when you were the new player, you used to pay a dinner for the whole team. So you come, have all food together, and you pay the dinner.
Even if you're like a young player like you were at Celta.
When I went, yeah.
Because you probably weren't earning that much yet, were you?
No, that much in that time, no.
And you were on loan,
Yeah.
it's like your first proper season, and you're buying dinner.
Yeah.
Did you
Yeah.
split it with David Silva, who was also on loan?
No, to be honest, I paid one and David Silva paid another one. Yeah.
It seems harsh. Because you were young, you know? I don't know,
Yeah.
It feels harsh. What did you buy?
I remember in Vigo, you can eat many places like beef and all of that, but they loved it to bring to the dressing room. They bring one guy to cook jamón, obviously typical Spanish.
Yeah.
So a very, very good jamón. The guy came, cut the jamón, so you buy a proper jamón, and a very, very good few different cheeses, and you put in the dressing room after the game. But you spend, I don't know, 500, 600 euros. Yes, no.
For the jamón,
Yeah, for the jamón was 500 euros, you know. So, and then for the cheese, another extra. So obviously it was a long time ago. That was in Celta Vigo. But I remember, but it was nice because you paid and you know the other ones are gonna pay it as well. So it was fine. And then actually it became something that we used to do every week, a team that loses. So we used to play same teams in the training, and then whoever is lost more games.
I always remember when you talk about like that Spanish influence, I always remember after games you would go into the opponent's manager's office or they'd come into yours, and there was always a little bit of a food area, you know, and depending on which part of the country or whichever club you were going to, you know, you would get pies, you would get sandwiches, and then you would get chicken wings and things like that. And then all of a sudden, it started to change a little bit. So you go to Arsenal, you go to Man City and places like that, and you would get like tapas, or you would get the jamón and the cheeses, and sort of Man City, Pep's sort of influence in that sort of, it was all laid out, it's nice sliced ham with bits of bread, and so it completely changed from sort of the pies and the sausage rolls to something, you know, completely different.
I can chip in here from my experience from the media side. Arsenal, superb. Their food with the media is superb. Chelsea, the same. United, a bit more old school, I have to be honest, with what they offer the media. It's not to everyone's fancy. City are not bad. Liverpool are more traditional as well, but they've renamed some of their things. Like the chicken is like cop chicken or something. I can't remember.
How long ago was that with Liverpool? Because it changed a lot now.
Last season?
Last season, yeah.
Yeah,
And it's
yeah.
still like
The
that.
It's a bit more
one who you
traditional.
would know was Tony Pulis, who you've had on one of your shows. I
And
don't know
Big
how so
Sam
long
as
ago.
well. And
But Tony at Stoke City, after the game, he invited you into what was their sort of boardroom in a way, but it wasn't for the board, it was for Tony and his staff. But when you went in, it was a full meal, a full course meal. So it was meat, potatoes, chips. It was a proper meal, and it always offered that to every manager and his staff before. I mean, we used to dine out on that when we'd go to Stoke, and it's only an hour from Stoke back to Manchester, so we'd leave the players on the bus, and the manager would say, right, come on, it's the best meal in town, this one, and we'd go and tuck into the meal.
Nice.
But it was great because you had a chat, and it was a nice friendly environment, and a good, you know, really good down to earth honest talk after the game, just over some food.
What a nightmare place to go.
Yeah,
play.
well,
Wow, what a not just for the
Difficult,
ground because he's winning. No, it's how he used to play.
Yeah,
you know?
difficult games there.
It's a game that everyone that it was, you know, you could play against United, other games that they were difficult, you know, and you would say, yeah, it's fine, but I want to play this game. But you against Stoke, nobody wanted to play in Stoke.
A great
you know,
atmosphere there, great atmosphere, but it was really emotional atmosphere and
then
there was a bit of the weather because
Yeah,
the ground's quite high up, and then the pitch altered its size now and again, which was Tony's way of doing things.
Yeah. And then throw-ins everywhere into the area, you know, big
It was
mans.
intense. It was intense.
It was very intense.
The lap throw, the world famous Roy the lap throw. I've worked with quite a few of the Stoke boys. Charlie Adam was here last week. Matt Upson, Danny Higginbottom, Robert Hoof.
They had some good players who could really be difficult to play against, couldn't they? But they were good players. They were good.
Danny that said they had the tallest back four in the country.
Yeah, definitely.
They were big units.
Yeah.
I got to ask though, as a Spaniard, and I've been to Spain, lovely food, fantastic food. Yeah. What were your thoughts when you first sat down and had, I don't know, a sausage roll in England?
The growler, meat pie.
Well, yeah, exactly.
What I thought about it?
What did you think of English food the first time you had it, having come from Spain?
Truth, honestly.
Yeah. It's a podcast. You can swear whatever you want. It doesn't matter.
It wasn't the best. Let's say that way. It wasn't obviously used to. It's not because I'm Spanish. If in Spain the food wasn't right, I would say it, you know. But it's true that in Spain you have so much variety, so nice. In Valencia, especially, you have your oranges, for example, for your fresh orange juice in the morning. Here, I go to the training ground and say, here you have your orange juice, and it's your orange juice from a bottle like that you can have on your fridge for 6 months, you know, and it's fine, you know. And they said, no, this is no orange. This is no orange, you know, and then. Things like that, you know, it's different. I thought like, but now sometimes I eat it. My wife, I understand English loving it because I think if you grow with it, you love it. My wife loves a good pie, you know, scones. I like scones. I have to say, my first time I had them was in Newcastle, and in a shop center there, and I actually like them a lot, the scones. But the rest, fish and chips, all of that is. They should
yeah, the French
them.
boys when they came to United, you know, they could never get their head around Laurent Blanc and Fabio Barthez. They couldn't get used to the baked beans. They could not understand what a baked bean was, you know.
But to be honest with you, it's actually that I like baked beans. I like them.
They looked at baked beans and they were disgusted with the baked beans because obviously, well, the French are pretty particular on the food as well, you know. But they expected them to be cooked from scratch, you know. But they didn't come out of a tin. You know, they couldn't understand that.
Ain't thin. Yeah. To be honest, it's something bad. I forgot about it. I like that. In toast with cheese.
You like that,
yeah?
I'm surprised. I'm genuinely surprised.
See?
I'm 10 years with an English woman.
That is true. I guess you have to like it. Your son is half English,
even
right?
if I don't like it, I have to say I like it.
And
Just in case he sees this.
It's easy to make toast, beans, you know.
It's a comfort food. It's an easy comfort food.
Easiest one.
Yeah.
I'm sure before you got married and you were alone in Norwich, you probably had that a few times. Absolutely. I don't know how good a cook you are, actually. I could be doing you a discredit here. Amazing pastas. Final few things here. What's the advice you would give to anybody who's a foreign player coming to the Premier League to adapt, like as you did? What's the advice you would give? Now that you're an agent, what do you say? Or would you say to a player?
Not even as an agent, as an ex-former player that I play there, definitely learn the language. I think is key thing to get yourself involved there.
It works both ways, because Woodgate, they loved him at Real Madrid because he learnt the language, right?
Yeah.
So there you go.
Yeah. I think it's really needed, but not just in England. I think even when you go to Spain, when you go to places that they are important languages that actually you're gonna be able to use them after, I think it's very important. And English, for me, was a mistake. Something that obviously I didn't expect to go to Newcastle. And in that time in Spain didn't really teach English so well. Now it's a lot of schools really that you do maybe 60–70% of your class is in English in Spain. So they really know, you know. So it's different. Yeah. So definitely learn the language and make sure you enjoy, because it's a privilege to be in the Premier League. I know people complain about the weather and about this and about that, but playing in the Premier League is another level. So make sure you enjoy, because when you're a player, you know how we are. Well, human beings, I think we complain, always have something to complain about, you know. And in the Premier League, it rains here. I remember Di Maria, you know, when he talks his wife and this. Listen, you're playing for one of the biggest clubs in the world, you know, fans. I don't remember the year, the last season I was at Liverpool, 95 or 96% of attendance to the stadiums in total, in general, in the Premier League. That doesn't happen anywhere. So my advice would be learn the language first of all, and then make sure you enjoy your time there because it's fantastic. It's the best league in the world.
Yeah. And if they're a Spanish player, are Mata's restaurants or Guardiola's restaurants, are they good?
I didn't try that one. I used to try Mendieta's restaurant,
Gaizka, yeah.
But it's closed because of COVID. I think it's closed.
Yeah, a lot of them have.
No, but I could tell them my brother's restaurant. My brother have one Spanish restaurant actually there. One of my brothers, because one of my brothers lives in Liverpool.
I'll be going there. Let me know the name, please.
Esto es España, it's called. You know? Esto es España. So this is Spain.
This is Spain.
It's called. Yeah.
I'll be looking out for it.
Yeah, but it's good. Hey, if you want, I will tell you. I said, listen, it's my brother, but the food.
Yeah.
You know? I love him, you know, but it's actually really nice food and it's improved a lot. The restaurant is very nice. When you're there, let me know. Definitely.
Oh,
definitely. You will enjoy.
For sure. I'll be looking it up. Any advice do you have to give?
I think that's very good advice, actually. You know, that you need to come wholeheartedly, you know, that you're going to give everything you possibly can to the country that you're going in. Languages are difficult, but a lot of players now have travelled before. It's very, probably the younger ones now are the ones that are least experienced when they come to a new club. But the older ones come with 4, 5, maybe 6 languages now, because they've picked up little bits like Portuguese and Spanish and a little bit of Germans. You know, now is creeping in, and then obviously you get the bit of Portuguese or the Brazilian. The Brazilians are a mixture of Portuguese and Spanish and what have you. So it's a really important time for them to settle into the culture, like we would have to do if we were moving around. But for players, I think players now don't really travel on their own. They travel with other people. Yeah. So maybe families or maybe people around them. You know, they have agents. So agents now put people in sort of in and around them to live maybe with them or next door to them. Yeah. That type of thing. So they bring a little bit of their culture with them, which is great. That's the important thing, that they bring Spanish to England or they bring Korean. You know, like we had G and people like that they bring that to the table. We had one guy who came from China. His name was Dong, Fancy Dong. Yeah. And he was a young boy who came from China, but he had to go to Belgium first, and then he came into United and sort of came in during pre-season because it was the visa thing and everything like that. So he could play in Europe, but he couldn't play in England. But he's a Man United player, and I always remember his culture. His culture was very, you know, eat, sleep and drink football. But when he ate for China. Do you know what I mean? He was everything. And I used to watch him at the table, and he used to get the noodles and everything, and he would literally do a bowl of noodles in 20 seconds. Do you know what I mean? It was like, wow, 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 and it was gone. It was as if it was his last meal. And then he'd go and watching him eat an egg. Oh, he could eat a full egg, you know, like a raw egg and he used to just chopsticks, scoop that straight in. Yeah. And I was like, wow, how'd you do that? You know what I mean? But it was the whole thing. And I just like all that different culture and watching people how they do. But he never went hungry, that's for sure. I don't know if he played many United games, but he certainly never went hungry.
And another advice that he more or less mentioned the same thing is that what Mike say at the end, you need to adapt to them. They don't need to adapt to you. That's key message, because sometimes you go there, like you say, you bring your Spanish people and everything like that, and it's like you think that the club maybe needs to adapt. No, you go into another country, you need to adapt to their culture, you need to adapt to their style of doing things, and it's different. Because, for example, for me, when I arrived to Newcastle, like I told you about Sam, the training is all completely different. It's not his mistake. That's the way he used to be the things. Yeah. It's me who I need to adapt to him, because he's my manager. So that's, I think, something that they need to do. People, when they leave their country and you go to another country, it's true that now it's different. It's a lot of foreign managers everywhere, a lot of the ball. But in that time, I remember waking up at 7 o'clock in the morning with Sam Allardyce, you know, without breakfast, in pre-season, and going boxing. And you say, what I'm doing boxing for? You know, it's nothing to do with football. And boxing in a back like that, pam, 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 for an hour. You know, like, and you go like, what? Like in that time, you are 21 again. You think you know everything, but then you have to realize that, well, is there a way to
I
do
think
it?
also
You
it's
need to adapt.
difficult as well because everybody has an accent in England. I don't know whether that's the same in Spain
Yeah,
or
it
whatever,
happens.
but there's accents and they're difficult for overseas players to
like Sir
understand.
Alex,
And phrases, you know, because we
Yeah.
have certain sayings and, you know.
Squeaky bum
and then,
time.
Yeah, and then they will, you know, they'll come to you and say, well, what does that mean? I don't understand that. I don't get that, you know. And it's difficult sometimes to explain what it means to somebody who doesn't really get it, or something that may be funny. So, you know, you may say something funny, but to that person, it's not funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Because I was going to just say this as a final question, the final question. Carragher, did you understand him when you met him?
Well, no him and no Flanagan. Flanagan was, but in that time I spoke English. So
Yeah, exactly.
I could speak with everyone. And I remember actually one day get mad to Flano because we were in the ice bath after a training, and I start talking to him and say, I don't understand. I say, listen, I speak with every single person here at the club, and I speak English perfect. So I believe sometimes they don't want, because I remember Carragher having problems in Sky Sports at the start because people in TV, they couldn't understand him too much because of of the Scouser accent, and he adapt to it. So if they want as well, you can understand each other. You understand? That's what I think. They have their accent, I have my accent. But if you want to understand each other, I think if you speak the language, obviously, I think you can understand each other. But me and Flano, for example, it was impossible. Sit down in the ice bath, talking to him, impossible. Talking to Dejan Lovren or Hendo, and having a conversation. I talk to him. I don't know what you mean. I'm talking to them in the same language, and they understand me. You don't. I think the problem is yours, not mine. You know what I mean? So that's the issue. If you speak the language, I think the accent, because in Spain it's a lot of, you go to the south, the accent is completely different.
Catalonia.
Valencia,
We
Catalonia,
had a
North.
player, Anderson,
Yeah.
and Brazilian. But even when he spoke with the Brazilians and the Portuguese guys, they couldn't even understand him because some of the language he used was a dialect from his area, which was a mixture of so many different. So he could speak Portuguese, he's Brazilian, but then he would throw little English words in as well into the same conversation, and all the guys that you would expect to understand him were like, wow, he's on another planet here. He's speaking something that we don't even understand. You know. But he was a great guy. Anderson was a fabulous guy. But he just had these moments when he could talk, and everybody would be just like, wow, what's he talking about? And these was his fellow countrymen sometimes, you know.
It's
So
unbelievable.
it just shows you, even in Brazil, I mean, it's massive, Brazil, and there's a lot of different things going on there. But even his own people were sort of, wow, where's that one come from, you know?
Yeah.
So it's really interesting now. It's far more interesting now to have the cultures and the players and the challenges, obviously, to bring it all together. But I think at one point we had 19 different nationalities in one dressing room, which is huge.
Yeah.
You know, when Jose went to Newcastle, he probably was one of the only few
They weren't too
overseas players to be there, and then the rest of them were
but even
probably
the manager, most of them, they were English managers. as
yeah.
well.
So
Really.
you know, it is a strange environment to go into, but it's a challenging one, and you get through it, or you don't. You know, if you don't stay there.
I think it's a perfect way to end because we're on TV in less than 45 minutes, 40 minutes from now. But speaking of different cultures, I'm Malaysian, bit of Scottish. We got a man from Valencia and a man from Burnley, all sitting here in one room having a conversation. So
Exactly.
I think that also speaks volumes. I would like to think we all understand each other too.
I think we do, yeah. I think we do.
Just about.
Talking football's easy.
Yes, exactly. And
That's all we know.
it's true.
It's true.
Thank you
It's
for
true.
watching Squeaky Bum Time. More in the not too distant future, can promise you that.